Hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to the Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. I am so incredibly hyped for this episode. In fact, I actually shouldn't be. I should be sleeping right now because in 6 hours I need to wake up for work. But first, before we proceed to today's episode, today's topics, let me just say this. Bulgaria just qualified for the first time in 55 years for the propositions. We know that's not my strong suit, but like in my exhilaration, I'm not even going to apologize. I'm sorry. She said just apologizing. Bulgaria just qualified for the World Championship, Volleyball World Championship, Men's Volleyball World Championship in 55 years. It's going, like, Bulgaria is going to the finale. We're playing tomorrow. We're playing against Italy. And I don't care who you are. I don't care about your ethnicity. I don't care about your nationality. Tomorrow you are Bulgarian and you're chanting for Bulgaria. Even if you're Italian, you are chanting for Bulgaria. I'm so proud of our boys. I'm so happy. Just what a year to be a Bulgarian. I mean, sure, my country may be going through a terrible, earth shattering, world defining demographic crisis because Bulgaria, fun fact, which is actually a very sad fact, is the fastest dying nation on earth because our uh, growth index is very low. It's negative. Someone just texted me. Let me just stop my messages. So Bulgaria is the fastest dying nation on earth, and a lot of it is contributed due to high death rate, low birth rate, but also because of high migration. So Bulgaria's population is predicted to decline by quite a big number by 2030. And when I saw that statistic, and it was like, I believe, a EU Commission statistic, when I saw it, and I was like, I am contributing to this declining number. I just cried for 2 days straight because, yes, did I leave the country? Yes. Do I love the country? Absolutely. Did it take me leaving the country to fall in love all over again with the country? Yes. Is that sad? Absolutely. It's heartbreaking. But doesn't matter. We're not focusing on the demographic crisis, the financial crisis, the political crisis, the crisis. Doesn't matter. All of these things don't matter when you look at our sports. Bulgarian sports, most of it is honestly just this year has been warming every single Bulgarian heart when it comes to tennis, when it comes to weightlifting, when it comes to gymnastics. Gymnastics has never disappointed when it comes to Bulgaria. And now with volleyball, and it's just so beautiful. And I'm just so excited. And like I mentioned, I need to wake up for work in 6 hours. Uh, and I was initially planning on doing a double shift, like opening and closing, aka 12 hours. Fuck this shit. I'm just doing my first shift and I am rushing home, getting a VPN somehow because my access to Bulgarian TV networks is blocked in the Netherlands. So I will find a way to watch the boys do what they're best at doing. And I'm so excited and I'm so happy for them. And I wish them lots and lots and lots of luck. And I just want them to know, not that any of them are listening, but no matter the result, they made the entire nation, the entire country extremely proud. They made history. So just go out tomorrow and enjoy it. Enjoy every single moment, no matter the outcome, because you have already made your mark on Bulgarian volleyball, on Bulgarian sports, on Bulgaria, and I'm so incredibly happy. I just really love team sports. I love watching sports. I love playing sports. But when it comes to volleyball and basketball in particular, I love them with my entire heart. I remember when I was little, there was some sort of a tournament. It was like a national tournament that lasted quite a long time, or at least when I was young, I perceived it as a long time. It could have been 2 weeks, but who knows? And I just remember there were quite a few volleyball games in my town's local sports hall. And I just remember my dad would take me there. And my first interaction with volleyball, not as a player, because I used to also play it in school and in high school, not as a professional, like part of a team, but it's just, I mean, I've always enjoyed playing basketball more than volleyball, but both have been so incredibly enjoyable. Unfortunately, I am short. I am a Balkan woman, so us like we're not known for being very tall. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not only up down to height. And oh my God, the amount of times my nose has greeted the ball instead of my hands, just yeah, yeah, like I don't even want to think about it because I'm just surprised my nose didn't break, because it's been to the point of me being like blackout. So I just remember like going to those games as a child and just loving the atmosphere and just the experience of it all, because there's nothing that can compare to experiencing a game live. Obviously, when you watch it on your TV, laptop, or from wherever, it is also exhilarating. And if I watch something in my home here in the Netherlands, like thousands of kilometers away, I am still very much hyped. But there is just something unexplainable when it comes to watching something live, and it's just a completely different experience. And I just remember after every game, and I was probably like between 9 and 11. I genuinely don't remember how old I was, but I just remember after every game, my dad would sit and wait with me to get autographs from the players, because I was just so starstruck. And I'm not tall now, and by this I don't mean to be sound pick me, but like obviously when I was nine, or between 9 and 11, because like we established, I don't know how old I was even shorter. And I just remember waiting for those big ass, tall ass men just to sign my poster. That was crazy. I was up to their knee. So that was just, I don't know, it's a very fond memory of mine, that period of time. And I just am so excited to see excitement around Bulgarian volleyball again, and about Bulgarian team sports, and just Bulgaria altogether, because I know I've mentioned this quite a lot, and I genuinely feel like we're quite an overlooked country, and we have lots and lots of culture and lots of great things to offer. Obviously, we also have corruption to offer, but I just think that if you look past the corruption, the crisis, the demographic crisis, and all of that, there is so much beauty in my country, and so much culture, and such great people. And I'm just happy to see Bulgaria getting the recognition it deserves, at least sports wise, and to see it being appreciated the way it deserves to be appreciated, because there is quite a lot of talent in Bulgaria, which unfortunately a lot of times is left underdeveloped simply because of lack of means. So I'm just very, very happy, guys. I'm so, so excited. What I'm not excited about, and it's something I've mentioned 3 times, and I feel like I'm mentioning it multiple times simply so that I can, like, hurry myself a little bit and also remind myself where I'm going. I need to wake up in 6 hours to get to work. And the thing is, I woke up at 6:30 this morning as well to go to work, and I am so incredibly sad to report that when I woke up, it was pitch black, dark outside. Not even a like a hint of sunshine, of sunrise. And this is so heartbreaking because I had to walk during the dark. Like obviously later around 7:30ish it started getting lighter, but this is just a very immediate reminder that winter is coming. And actually, when I say winter is coming, I was about to make a Game of Thrones joke, but then I realized I've never watched Game of Thrones. And yes, I am one of those 0.00001% of the population in the world who has not seen Game of Thrones. And I feel like at this point, it's part of my brand. And I just cannot watch Game of Thrones even if I wanted to because, like, I base my personality off of the fact that I've never seen Game of Thrones. Same with Euphoria. And I really like Zendaya. So I don't know why I've never seen Euphoria. And you know what's something I also base my identity off of? The fact that I don't have a bike. Yes, I walk everywhere in the Netherlands. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, but the Netherlands is very famous with its biking opportunities and everybody bikes, and that is true. Everybody bikes. Hence, me not biking. And it's not for pick me reasons. It's not because I want to be different and just so quirky and crazy and fun and just built like that. It's simply because I'm terrified of biking here. Because biking in Bulgaria is leisure time, it's pleasure, it's physical activity. Biking as a form of commute after I passed the age of 15 is no longer something I enjoy. And here, I feel like I'm more scared of a bike crashing into me than a car because actually, last year, I was like a car like crashed into me basically because I was crossing the street on a crosswalk because I mean here, okay, not to incriminate but fully to incriminate myself, here I kind of do jaywalk sometimes. In Bulgaria I don't. In Bulgaria I don't, and my friends are the ones who jaywalk and they're every time, come on, it's 3 a.m. There's nobody on the street. Can we just cross? And I'm like, no, we need to go to a crosswalk. Here I jaywalk more. But in that particular instance, I was crossing on a crosswalk and the car just, it had stopped, hence me entering the crosswalk and me being midway through the crossing process, it just started driving and started dragging me. And I was on top of the um, you know, getting on top of the car and I was just like, look, and I didn't know what to do. So I tried to run, but like obviously my legs were being pushed by the car. And the guy just stopped and started yelling at me and cursing at me as if he wasn't the one who drove me over. I mean, not drove me over, but you know what I mean. And like, girl, you had stopped and it's not my fault. You decided to start driving as I was crossing after you had stopped for me to cross. How is it my fault? And I was so taken aback that I just continued. And then my knee hurt for a little bit, but that was it. And I remember also when I was in Bulgaria, when I was in high school, that there is like an intersection next to my high school, which is a very busy one. And I just remember seeing this girl, she was my age, so like 16, 17, and she was driven over by a Jeep. And the man just like simply like drove her over. She rolled and he just braked, waved at her, and continued his way. And when I tell you, I've never been that flabbergasted. And I know earlier, like 2 minutes ago, I said Bulgaria has nice people. Bulgaria has really nice people. And I know that in Bulgaria, if I need help on the street, I am going to receive help on the street. But there are people like these who are, the black sheep, who are just like, oh yeah, let me just, how do you drive over someone and don't even stop to check if they're okay? How is that normal? How do you sleep at night? How, like, whatever. So yeah, what I was trying to say is that I'm not excited about the fact that I wake up and it's still dark outside and that winter is coming. And how did we get from here to Game of Thrones to, I don't know, mind map? I don't make mind maps, but someone should make a mind map of my mind, because the connections sometimes are really not connecting. So I'm just really not excited because tis the season, and tis the season is onsetting very, very rapidly. And what I mean by that is, here in the Netherlands, winter is quite different from winter and autumn in Bulgaria. I would compare it more to winter and autumn in the UK. I mean, obviously, I'm comparing it to places I have experienced. I don't know if it's comparable to other countries. Doesn't matter. So what I mean by this is, in Bulgaria, obviously, it also, like, during autumn and winter, the days become quite short. But there is still light, and it's never as gloomy as it is here, because here, obviously, the country famous for its downpours, it's constant overcast. So I'm just not really excited about the fact that in less than a month, when I have to wake up at 6:30 for work and then come home for, like, leave work at 5, I will not have experienced sun at all throughout that day. And the way things are going for me now, with those 12-hour days with lectures and work, that's just not something I'm looking forward to. And I'm just genuinely terrified of seasonal depression, and I will try my best to prevent it any way I can. But oh my god, last year it was something crazy. And that's why I was talking about the weather every single week, because guys, it was affecting me. And I know I've said it before and I'll say it again. I was underestimating seasonal depression until I experienced seasonal depression. And this year, I will just try to make the most out of my days, even if they're during, you know, not daylight. And I will try to actually start taking vitamin D pills, because it's just crazy how vitamin D deficient I was last winter, because I did not experience sun at all. And I'm just now thinking about how capitalism is so prominent. It's like it leaks from the pores of our existence. Capitalism is our sweat. Capitalism is our homeostasis. Because, and why am I mentioning this? Because I'm just now thinking about how we change, like, we do daylight savings, and we, because, time is a construct. So it's something we all agreed upon as people, that, hey, we are just going to assume that the day has 24. I mean, obviously, it's not going to just assume it's science-based, but you know what I mean? Like, time is weird, and it's the only thing man cannot well, not the only thing, but one of the more prominent things man cannot control. And it's just how prominent capitalism is, and capitalistic mentality, that it initiated a sort of control over time, where we adjust an hour forward or an hour backwards depending on the season. I still to this day don't know when daylight savings starts and when we actually do an hour forward or an hour backwards. I just know I love doing an hour backwards because I get to sleep an hour more. And that's really, really enjoyable. But it really, really, you know when it sucks? When you are working in the Horeca and your shift is until 4 a.m. and then it's going like at 3, the clock goes an hour back, and it's no longer 3, it's 2, so you have 2 more hours of work. That's very fun and exciting. Yeah, I don't miss those days. As much as I complain at times about the fact that I work at a fast food chain, so much better than the restaurant I used to work at, because now with this set time schedule, I know that the store closes at this hour and there is no ifs, when, and buts. This is when we close, and that's on that. And the earliest I get home is that hour, and not me getting home at like 6 or 7 a.m. just to get to my lecture at 9 a.m. That was criminal. I don't know how I survived it. And hashtag never forget, hashtag never again. Again, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, like, we are just changing time to capitalize, to create an hour in which we can, well, steal an hour in which we can be more productive. Daylight savings is capitalism based, it's productivity based, it's about attaining to working hours in factories. So that's that. And I just wonder if we didn't do daylight savings, because again, I don't remember when we go 1 hour forward and an hour back. I would assume we go 1 hour back when it's summer, because it gets dark later. So no, that would mean an hour forward. Now, I have zero clue. Like, imagine a clue, because I cannot. I don't have that. But yeah, so what I was going to say is, like, I imagine if we didn't do like the adjusting of the, this is something I could, instead of asking you, I can actually very easily Google and figure out. Am I going to? No. Is my problem very easily solvable? And do I beat myself in the chest claiming and screaming, I'm a researcher, I'm a researcher? Yes. But some things are better left unsaid. Some things are better left misunderstood, not understood. Some things are better, well, like, let's just keep the magic alive, guys. Even if it's science-based. What's more magic than science? I can hear all the engineers and the STEM people just screaming at me and being so pissed at me. You're welcome. I'm an arts degree person, if you couldn't tell by now. Yeah, so all of this just to say that I'm not excited that I have to wake up and it to be dark outside. This is literally the only sentence I could have said, but then I just decided to drag it into like another 10-minute yap. Welcome to Dirty Martini. I hope you stay. What I wanted to talk about today, and it's actually something I wanted to talk about quite a long time ago. Well, a long time being like 3 weeks, but because of the way my life is structured right now, a week feels like a month. So basically, I wanted to tell you this like 3 months ago, my perception time wise. My time perception wise. English isn't Englishing, guys. I've had to speak in a couple different languages today, and I just don't know what language I speak. And for all I know, I could be speaking in Bulgarian right now, and I would not even realize this. And what's funny to me is that I actually was talking to a friend when I slept at a friend's place when I went to Bulgaria, and she told me because I'm a sleep talker every now and then when I'm anxious, I apparently have started sleep talking in English, which is hilarious because I just remember sleep talking in Bulgarian because obviously my brain was raised in Bulgarian. And when I would sleep with friends who were English speaking, or our friendship is an English speaking relationship, and I would sleep talk, they would just be like, you said something, but you started speaking in Bulgarian, and I have no clue what you said. And most of the times I'm like, did I say something like Majka ti stara? And they're like, this is exactly what you said. And that's all I need to know. Because I start sleep talking when they make sounds, when they turn on the light, or they just disturb my sleep in any way. And Majka ti stara, for all the non-Bulgarian speakers, means your mom is old. And what's your favorite curse word? Work. What's your favorite curse word? Probably fuck. Well, mine is your mom is old. Not to be misogynistic, obviously, I've explained this many times. No need to reiterate. Actually, maybe, you know what? Never mind. What I wanted to talk about today about. What is the correct order? I have no clue. Do I care? Absolutely not. I saw this meme today. I'm like, okay, I don't know why I'm doing this, but like every situation, like every word I mention just reminds me of something and I want to say something about it and I'm struggling to get to my point. Ah, guys, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just a bit distracted. I'm a bit overwhelmed and I'm a bit overhyped by the patriotic success. Um yeah, I just saw this meme about like someone saying, oh, yeah, if I make a mistake when speaking in English, don't excuse me. It's on purpose. It comes from disrespect for the language because the English colonized everything and I refuse to give them my tongue too. So I think that's quite a slayful statement, quite a bold statement, and I respect it so much. So I should also stop apologizing for speaking in a different language and maybe making mistakes, considering that it's not my first language. And sure, I may have internalized English to a point that my subconsciousness apparently works in English now. Um, but I make mistakes in my native tongue, let alone for a language that I have not been speaking for, like, I mean, I've been speaking it exclusively for 4 or 5 years, but Bulgarian I've been speaking for 23. Obviously, I didn't learn English in 4 or 5 years. I mean, like, I've been submerged in the English speaking environment. I started learning English when I was 5 or 6. I don't remember. Um, yeah. Also, something I've been, and this is the last thing, and then I promise to get to the point in which for which I wanted to create the entire podcast. Well, not podcast, episode. Guys, I hope you're enjoying this chaos that is happening today. I promise you, I'm not drunk. The only thing I have in my system is barely 100 milliliters of water for the entire day, a couple spoonfuls of Ben and Jerry's, the peanut butter cup one. I also have like, half baked, but I have two flavors. And I was like, I'll start with the one I'm less excited about so that like the one I'm more excited about I have for later. Because, good things take time. And I'm the type of person who doesn't start always with the best thing. I always keep the best for last. I always find it so interesting when people were like, oh, this on my plate, this is the thing I'm most excited to eat, so I'm going to eat it first. No, you save it for last and you let it linger and you let the sensation just fizzle out slowly and you don't like overshadow it with different flavors. So that's why the half baked is for later, for when I finish the peanut butter cup one. And I wouldn't have bought that one, but that was the only one available when they had a 1+1 deal and they didn't have to half bake. So why am I explaining this? I have no clue. What did I want to say? I don't remember. I legitimately had to stop this recording and replay it to figure out what was the thing I wanted to say. Yeah, recently, this week in particular, I have had quite a few worries about my accent. And I feel like I have this accent crisis every few months, but it's been quite exacerbated this time because obviously, I know that I have an accent, but it's normal that I have an accent considering that I'm not speaking in a language that is my native language. So it's expected that I'm going to have an accent. But then I'm just like, I know the connotation behind people commenting on like someone's accent, especially if that accent is a Balkan one. But some people tell me that my accent is very Balkan. Other people tell me your accent just sounds foreign. And my accent is genuinely something I worry about quite a lot when I'm in group settings. Because here, sure, I'm by myself and I hear myself in a way that maybe I don't sound. And I just worry quite a lot. And I've worried to the point that I don't even want to contribute in group settings and in group discussions because I'm so worried about my accent. And I have brought this up to a few people who I know will not judge me and I actually trust. And they're like, everyone here is an international, everybody has an accent. Chill out, it's okay. Your accent is not annoying. But then I also have people at work, just like random customers, claiming that I'm Russian because of my accent. And I am not Russian. Like, if you want to make a Bulgarian's blood boil, claim that they're Russian. If you want to make a Macedonian's blood boil, claim that they're Bulgarian. It's just a lot of tension there, you know. And I don't know why I'm ashamed about my accent when in reality it's like a sign that I speak more than one language, and speaking more than one language should be something to be proud of, not something to be embarrassed about. So I just really, really hope this week when I'm editing, I don't cringe at my accent, because having an accent is completely normal and it's not something to be embarrassed about. Also, at the end of the day, who actually gives a fuck? Because it's all in my head. Because it was all in my head. Ariana Grande. If you didn't secure your tickets to Ariana Grande store, we've got Ariana Grande at home. Um, yeah, I just really don't want to have to worry about my accent. And but the thing is, so for people here, I sound Balkan. But for people in Bulgaria, when I speak in English, they're telling me that I sound very posh and I am purposefully trying to eradicate the Bulgarianness from my accent. So there is literally no pleasing anyone, and I might as well just speak the way I speak, because why the hell would I purposefully eradicate? I mean, no, I understand why I would potentially purposefully eradicate my accent when speaking in English, especially if there's like connotations with different countries and different cultures and blah, 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 blah. Because, like people perceive you differently if you have an accent. But everybody has an accent. That's the whole point. Um, but yeah, I don't think, obviously, the way I speak is the way I speak. I'm not putting up appearances. I'm not putting on an accent just for the podcast or for my. Because if I wanted to, I could sound like this and I could sound very Bulgarian. But this is me putting on an accent. And this is not what I sound like. This is what I sound like. And I'm really hoping that in the editing process, I'm going to notice a difference or a difference, and just accept the fact that the way I speak is normal and it's totally okay and it's totally acceptable. And if someone is not okay with me having an accent in English when I'm talking to them in English simply because English is the only language they know, then it kind of doesn't sound like a me problem. And it kind of doesn't sound like it has to be a me problem. Doesn't matter. Let's draw the line here. The thing I wanted to talk about today, and the thing I've been wanting to talk about for 3 weeks, or in my perception, 3 months, is, and just like that. I know, all this build up for something which maybe some of you are finding such an underwhelming topic. That's okay. That is totally okay. because I obviously, when I finished watching Sex and the City, I gave you my rundown on the series. And then over the summer, because Netflix had to kick me out of my Netflix household, and shout out to HBO Max for allowing me to use my sister's HBO account without kicking me out. HBO, like, honestly, you're winning my heart right now. Obviously, Netflix has really nice productions, but HBO, like, girl, I was not familiar with your game. So, and just like that, for all of you who don't know, is a sequel to Sex and the City, which, if you don't know what Sex and the City is, well, it is this series. Originally was series, then there were movies. I've never seen the movies actually, so maybe I should actually watch the movies first before commenting, but it's a research for future time, because like I mentioned earlier, I'm a researcher and I can just claim here now whatever I want, or I can just report on my findings up until today and now. So, Sex and the City is this series which focuses on the lives of four women in their 30s in New York, and it centers about around friendship, about around love, about relationships and dating. And it was seen as something which really changed the game when it come to um, opening up about having conversations surrounding sex, surrounding women in their 30s. It didn't do, obviously, much justice about representation because it was a predominantly white show. And this is the first point I have when it comes to commenting on just like that, which is the sequel to the story of Sex and the City. And now we follow the lives of the three out of the four women on the original cast. We follow Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte. But Samantha is not there. She makes a quick, cameo over the phone, but doesn't return to the series because I'm it's not my place to comment on this. The women themselves have spoken up about it, so I'm not going to, comment on it because it's not my place. So and just like that follows the lives of Carrie, Charlotte, and Miranda in their 50s going into their 60s, and it still centers around identity, femininity, female friendships, relationships, dating, and aging. And what it's so interesting to me because, and just like that was first premiered in 2021. And I just, first of all, my first and biggest critique is that they stopped doing, like, at the end of every episode, they would say, and just like that, Big died, for example, in the first episode. Um, and then eventually they just stopped doing that for every single episode, which I can understand why, but also I just really, really like the concept, and I think this is not something they should have ditched because it just, you know, it creates a sense of completion when it comes to the plot of the episode, or just, I don't know, I really, really liked it. So it was released in 2021 and it only has 3 seasons. The third one released a few months ago, well, concluded a few months ago. And I actually started watching it after it was released, after the series ended, because I don't know what is it with me and always watching series after they have finished and the hype around them has passed. I don't know. I don't know. Just maybe I have not set my clock to save the what? Daylight savings. Maybe I'm still an hour back rather than an hour forward. Doesn't matter. There was like an attempt at a joke. Martina, it's really not funny when you explain a joke by saying this was a joke. Anyways, so it's just so fascinating for me to see how the movie, well, not the movie, the plot developed. Because Sex in the City was something I studied before I even watched. And I studied it accent. I studied. Oh my god, now I don't know how to say it. Studied it in my media studies bachelor when we were talking about feminism and representation of women, of people of different ethnicities, of different nationalities, of different ages, female representation, and so on and so forth. And so Sex in the City is something one of those things that I studied before I actually consumed. And I obviously I'm now going to give you a quick rundown of my opinion of someone who has studied Sex and the City, and as someone who is just fascinated with the concept of media representation, hence, my thesis being devoted to that. Because the thing is, I feel a lot of movie producers, TV show producers, content producers forget that representation on screen is not simply about having a representative of a certain race, ethnicity, nationality, religious orientation, sexual orientation, or whatever. Representation is not just a question of if there is a representation, which is a pretty core question in itself, but meaningful representation that matters, is more focused on how, on the why. The why and how of representation are, for example, how is the person portrayed rather than is the person portrayed? And why is the person portrayed like this? What does that person bring to the plot? And the reason this is the first thing I mentioned when talking about And Just Like That is because, like I mentioned, the series was first initially released in 2021. So, for those of you who don't remember 2021, or maybe some of you are listening to this 10, 20 years from now, and you're someone who was not even born in 2021, which is just a crazy concept. But you know what I saw recently? Someone who works as a bartender was like IDing a client, and that client gave them their ID, and the bartender says, well, you have to be 18 in order to drink. And the person replies, I am 18. Here, it says 2007. Guys, people born in 2007 are 18 years old. They are of legal age to drink and to drive a car. They are of voting age. 2007. 2007, that people who've never been 18 are out there being 18 right now. And that is just crazy. And I know this makes no sense, but it makes so much sense in my brain. So what was it? Oh yeah. So in 2021, for those of you who don't remember, it was very rocky because it was preceded by a very rocky, not ASAP Rocky, just a very rocky, rough year globally. COVID, Black Lives Matter, just those two very prominent and presidential elections in arguably one of the most influential countries in the world. So like a lot of tension. And I just remember in 2020 there was something every month. And I think first it started with wildfires in Australia, and then there were some killer hornets or something like this, and then everything went to shit. So after 2021, post George Floyd inspired Black Lives Matters movements and protests, what was to be observed was change in media representation. And what I mean here is not the why and how, but the if representation. We saw a trend of more inclusivity, even if it was just to fill a quota for diversity. But this obviously also created a problems in itself, because creating representations on people you've never represented before meant that there was over reliance on stereotypes, but also because of this fear of offending, this fear of stereotyping. What a lot of people did in order to reach that diversity quota was they assigned every single category of representation that had to be present in order for a content production to be seen as meaningful. Because I know the Oscars introduce criteria when it comes to representation, of including someone who is from a different descent than white people, someone who is not able-bodied, someone who is not heterosexual. So these criteria, I feel they're very meaningful. They matter because they're trying to make movie makers and TV show makers think about the colorful and diverse communities which we have in the day-to-day life. And because, sure, you may make an argument about, oh, but movies are not supposed to be realistic. That is like, I'm not even going to start that conversation right now because, like I mentioned, I've got work to go to, and this is a 3-hour conversation in itself. But what a lot of movie studios did and content production studios did is they ascribed all those diversity criteria to a single character. And then you saw a character who is not able-bodied, who is not white, and who is not heterosexual, all in once. And I'm not saying that those don't exist, obviously. I'm just saying that that is not what was meant by introducing that criteria. So it was very interesting for me to observe the way representation was created and just like that. And if I said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times again. Representation doesn't just entail presence of a character from a social layer that you want to represent. It's about attributing them characters beyond that minority that they belong to, while also recognizing how their belonging to a minority shaped them. It's about portraying them as people rather than just as tropes, not just as a presence that would allow you to check off the diversity box. And so, and just like that came out during COVID times, so very politically and socially delicate times. And I can just see, especially in the first season, how they tried to think of everything and include everything and include everybody and be as inclusive as possible so that not to offend anyone, which is nice because they try to develop diverse characters with depth. But I think that some of the characters that they created, in the pursuit of avoiding stereotyping, they did exactly that. And the character just became the gay character, the non-binary character, which, in my opinion, and obviously I recognize that I'm speaking now from the lens of a white heterosexual woman, but in my opinion, this doesn't do much justice to representation. And in fact, it may even further feed stereotypes. So it was just interesting at first to observe the switch from Sex and the City, the original series. Like I mentioned, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't speak about representation there. So switching from there, from the original series to the sequel, it was quite a shock, and I don't mean shock as a bad thing. It's just seeing this, and obviously I feel like if you've not noticed by now, I fall on the left side of the political spectrum. um Seeing that wokeness at first when I watched it, that was quite something to grasp, especially when you compare it to the original series, because they were trying to be also inclusive and also delicate and also representative, that it was just like, girl, those conversations, those plot lines that you're trying to develop, and I know that it's a show, so everything is staged, but it looks so extremely staged and so extremely unnatural. And I just feel like characters like Che, for example, could have benefited from more de- depth and development, especially after Che's breakup with Miranda. For those of you who have not seen the movies, well, the series, and want to watch it, yeah, spoiler alert, I guess. She said after, about to conclude the entire episode. Um, I don't know. I just, that was something quite interesting to observe. And I'm interested how my teachers who used to teach me about Sex in the City and what it means about representation, if they're even mentioning and just like that. And obviously, I'm very happy to see representation of the day-to-day life of women who are 50 on their way to 60. But let's be fucking for real. Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte are not, your average woman going into her 60s, because uh, like, the actresses themselves, they've been scrutinized their entire lives about the way they look. So they cannot afford to not look good. They cannot afford to age the way regular women are maybe allowed to age, although, like, when are women actually allowed to change and age? But, like, there is difference between aging in front of the camera for millions if not billions to see, and aging within the comfort of your own home. If you're, blessed and lucky enough to get the chance to age. So I see what they were trying to achieve with the representation tropes, and like trying to be as inclusive as possible, especially in communities like the New York one, where it's such a diverse community and there's so many people from everywhere. I can see what they were trying to achieve. However, I really don't think they achieved it. Like, I can see the intention behind it, but I think the execution could have been better. Obviously, I recognize that they were doing the best they could with what they had at the time, because, again, situating it in the political, economic, socio-cultural context in which it was first developed and conceived as a concept, they were trying their best. And maybe if I had seen it in 2021, I would have been like, wow, that is so relevant. But now, maybe in 2025, when obviously things are under so much scrutiny nowadays too, and there's so much tension, but the way it was represented didn't seem relevant anymore. So maybe I should position myself in the lens of 2021 when perceiving and talking about the series, but it is what it is. And I just wanted to say that, because I know the series actually was they decided to end it midway through the creation of the third season. The ending just felt super rushed and super unfinished and underdeveloped. And I'm very sorry, but like, I feel like after 30 years of developing those characters, I think they could have given more depth to their closure. And by depth to their closure, I don't mean, oh, Carrie should have ended up with a man. Obviously, this is not what I'm saying. It's just, I just really, that meme that is like when you start drawing and like it's a horse, and at first it's like so realistic, it's like a photo. And then by the end of it, it looks like a stick figure. This is what it felt like, because they put in all their effort into creating the first season and trying to accommodate every single viewpoint ever possible, that by the end of it, I feel like it was quite neglectful to the characters, because I don't know, obviously, if the characters are something that's forever close and never to be explored again. But if they are, and this is the last we see of those characters who have become so iconic to pop culture, to the TV industry, the movie industry, the fashion industry, I just think the characters deserved more, deserved more depth, deserved better closure, and in general, just deserved closure that was not achieved in a single episode. So, obviously, they did what they could with what they had, money and time wise, but I really, really think it could have benefited from more storytelling so as not to leave the audience a bit perplexed and underwhelmed. Because if I, as a viewer, am underwhelmed, what about the characters whose stories just end abruptly? And there are so many questions left unanswered. And like I mentioned, I don't know if there would be another movie in the making or whatnot, but I don't know. I don't know. And I feel like now, even though I was up until now talking about, giving proper closure and more depth, I feel like, guys, it's time for me to go, because I just can barely breathe now because my nose is getting very stuffy. Yes, hashtag still sick. And I really need, I don't know, I only mentioned it 17 times. I need to get to work in literally a few hours. So I want to thank you all so much for listening to this episode. And I really hope to see you in the next one. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. And just like that, this episode of Dirty Martini concludes. That's how you do it. Bye.